USA basketball also feeling the effects of COVID. Bradley Beal will not participate in the Olympics after being placed in COVID protocol on Wednesday. Jeremy Grant has also been placed in protocol out of caution. However, the team is hoping he will remain with the squad. Team USA officials are now reaching out to possible replacements for Beal. Here's Greg Popovich's reaction to the news.
I'm dying for him. We all are. You know, since he's a little kid, this has been a dream of his. And he was playing great. He was having fun. You know, being a big part of us coming together chemistry-wise and as a family. And so for him and for his family, immediate family, it's devastating.
So the Americans will have at least one slot to fill before they head to Tokyo. 3 of their 11 players are still playing in the finals, and Devin Booker, Drew Holiday, and Chris Middleton. The calling card for a lot of these international teams is size and physicality. Bam Adebayo is the only true center on the roster, so maybe adding a little help up front would be beneficial. Brian Windhorst joining us now from Vegas. So Team USA scrambling to find another player for this squad. Who are possible replacements for Bradley Beal?
Yeah, so they've spent the last 12 hours gauging which players not only would be willing to play, but which players are in shape. This team is scheduled to leave for Tokyo on Monday. They don't have a run-up of 2 weeks like they've had with the rest of the players to get those guys in shape. So a couple of players that we think they're looking at. Julius Randle of the New York Knicks, who was one of the finalists to get one of the last spots, obviously coming off a terrific season. I can tell you that Tobias Harris has been reached out to by Team USA to judge his availability, but he has been out of the country for the last 2+ weeks, celebrating his birthday, which is Thursday. So he is not really in position. I don't know what sort of his form would be. But I would also keep an eye on Duncan Robinson with the Miami Heat. He was a guy that was on the list of 57 players that the Team USA was considering. Robinson is an excellent outside shooter. I think would have been on this roster or had a good chance to make it if he was not a free agent. So that is an issue for him. So it doesn't sound like they're going after guards, guys, because Trae Young and Ja Morant both went to social media today and indicated they were not going to be on the team and had no interest and you know, different views on whether they were interested or not. But it looks like they're headed for a forward. They certainly should have the decision by late tonight or early tomorrow morning.
So that spot still up in the air. What about the Americans that are still on this team right now, currently on the squad? They're supposed to play Australia on Friday in an exhibition contest. What's the status of that contest right now?
Yeah, they've got to really protect this roster at this point. You know, they are leaving for Tokyo in a few days. Obviously, the players cannot test positive. They will not be able to take part in the Olympics. And so the game with Australia Friday is in peril. There's been discussions between the two coalitions about whether they should cancel the game just for safety reasons. It's not just Team USA. Australia's Olympic delegation has very strict COVID protocols, and they're very concerned about potential exposure. So it's Australia just as much as the U.S. And then there's another game on Sunday. At this point, in talking to sources around the team, they just want to get the guys onto the plane without any more positive tests so they can get to Tokyo and be in that bubble there. And that is going to take priority, even if that means losing games.
Yeah, no doubt about it. You want to play those games to build up that chemistry. But again, health, the biggest key right now. Thank you, Wendy. Appreciate that. All right, so this is only the 5th year that the U.S. men's team has lost multiple games since they started playing with the pros in 1992. In the other 4 instances, Team USA failed to win the major tournament, which occurred that year. That includes the 2004 bronze medal.
And we do have a developing story here on SportsCenter, and a blow to Team USA. Wizards guard Bradley Beal will miss the Tokyo Olympics as he remains on the health and safety protocols. Teammate Jeremy Grant also in the protocols, but he's expected to return. Here's USA coach Greg Popovich on the disappointing news on Beal.
Dying for him. We all are. You know, since he's a little kid, this has been a dream of his. And he was playing great. He was having fun. You know, being a big part of us coming together chemistry-wise and as a family. And so for him and for his family, immediate family, it's devastating.
We're joined now by Brian Windhorst, who's joining us from Las Vegas and covering Team USA for us. Wendy, what are some potential options to replace Beal on the roster at this point?
Yeah, El, so Greg Popovich said that a big factor is going to be conditioning. Who out there guys who are on vacation, guys who are resting on this offseason, who out there who's available can come and report to this team in the next 24 hours and be in condition to play. So they're canvassing their potential candidates, engaging who's even in the country. I know of at least one player who was an option, who was out of the country on vacation, not available to report in the short term. So just because they lost a guard, don't expect them to necessarily replace him with the guard. They're deep at the guard position, and they have Drew Holiday and Devin Booker coming after the finals.
Exactly. They have plenty of depth there. We'll see how they look to replace Bradley Beal. Last-minute scramble. You combine that with, of course, all the negative attention that they've been getting for losing some of these exhibition games. What is the overall outlook right now for Team USA as they're scheduled this weekend prior to departing for Tokyo?
Their number one priority is to stay healthy. I know that they would like to get some games in, but from what I have been told, tomorrow's game against Australia is now up in the air and possibly going to be a cancellation. That would leave Sunday's game, their last exhibition game against Spain, also up in the air. They are definitely keeping an eye on close contacts and contact tracing. I think more than anything, they want to be able to get on the plane to Tokyo, have all their players healthy, and if that means sacrificing time on the court together, so be it.
At least they'd be able to field a team. Brian Windhorst with the latest on the men's.
KD, Damian Lillard, and the rest of these guys on that team, particularly the stars, but especially KD, even though he is a champion, a two-time champion and the two-time NBA Finals MVP, they're going to have to wake up and recognize the fact that you can end up being severely tarnished if this continues. Now, we all look at USA basketball, Team USA, Molly and Max, and we recognize something that has changed. Back in the day, in international play, the USA was a juggernaut, and they made you play their way. They were led by the stars, which is the point Max was making to his credit. Now, instead of forcing the Europeans to play their way, the Europeans have forced Team USA to play their way. That's why you got a roster filled with a bunch of shooters and no true big man presence. Your definition of a big man is Draymond Green and Bam Adebayo and Kevin Love, okay? So understand they're forcing you to play their way now. And by playing their way, you're not looking too great at doing it. In the end, we're not going to dissect it that way. In the end, we're going to sit up there and say when LeBron was playing, they won. When D-Wade was playing, they won. When Kobe was playing, they won. Even though Kevin Durant was on those teams too. But because he's clearly the leader of this team, and Damian Lillard is a superstar player, if they continue to lose like this, you're going to look at them and you're going to say, what the hell happened?
What's the problem with Team USA? It's the same problem in college when you have the most talented team, but they're a bunch of one-and-dones, and they play a team of guys. Maybe none of them will be NBA stars, but some of them might be in NBA rotations, but they played together for 2-3 years. They're upperclassmen now. They've played together. They've committed to each other, to the team, and they have some talent. They have some, like, real NBA-ish talent. They can beat a more talented team that hasn't played together for very long, that's not as committed or invested. That's why the upperclassmen of like a mid-major, they can beat a one-and-done powerhouse sometimes. And that's what's happening right now. This is like a one-and-done powerhouse. And when the Team USA is constructed, when you have, let's say it was a team of Steph, Harden, Kawhi, LeBron, and KD in the starting five, then none of this stuff matters because at a certain point, you have so much talent, it's just not going to matter. Look at the Brooklyn Nets whenever they were almost healthy, right? But when you start to degrade that roster, and now it's not all MVP caliber players, it's MVP caliber players with all-stars and maybe some guys who are only sometimes all-stars. Now these guys have to be committed. The teams that Team USA are playing, Stephen A., by and large, have multiple players, a core of players who have multi-year commitments to their country's team, to their national team, who've played together for some time, and have a handful of guys who can make NBA rosters, who are on NBA rosters. Who was Durant blocked by last night? Thibault, clean block. He can do that in the NBA, too. So yesterday, when we started, we said, is this roster a problem? I thought it was. Then yesterday, we asked, after the first loss to Nigeria, is this a problem? I said, not yet. Now we see it as a problem. 2 losses in a row, we see it's a problem. They played better, but not well enough, consistently enough throughout the game. They're playing teams who want it more. This is the biggest stage they'll ever play on. Most of the team isn't hoping to win an NBA title one day like most of Team USA is. They want it more. They're more committed. They play together. They've been playing together longer. either Team USA really starts to want it and commit to each other, or we got to send even better players than we're sending now.
Wait, so is it want or talent?
Well, it's not about talent. I think it's the wanting. And I think about it, when they lost, I think it was in 2004. I mean, as Larry Brown was coaching the team and what have you. And I mean, that was not a good thing. What was happening there was not a good thing with Iverson and the crew and LeBron and them all on the younger that they were on the squad, and they did not win. And then they felt the need to elevate the level of urgency and get, Mike Krzyzewski up in there. Jerry Colangelo became managing director, and obviously you picked the star-studded roster. And they went and represented not one, not two, but 3 consecutive Olympics from 2008 to 2016. Now you've gone the way back to 2004. In other words, we're at the top of the heap. We don't need to have the, quote, creme de la creme in order to win the gold, which is something that I still maintain. See, I'm not talking, I'm assuming that you're incredibly committed. I'm saying that from a talent perspective, there should be no issue. I'm looking at the talent on this squad. You should be playing better. You should be more effective. And right now, if Kevin Durant, who is clearly the face and the leader of this squad, is associated with a collapse in Olympic play, particularly coming off of what just happened to Brooklyn, as spectacular as he was, we all know that. Kyrie gets hurt. If Kyrie isn't hurt, I believe they're in the finals right now. All right, James Harden, same thing. But that doesn't negate the shrapnel of criticism that inevitably is going to come his way, because people out there are going to look at him as the leader, and this is what happened on your watch.
I have a question, one thing with something you said, Stephen A. When you say it's us not playing the European way, what do you mean by that?
Well, what happens is that the style of play itself, I mean, some of the rules that have been implemented, the fact that they built this roster the way that they have, you've got 3-point shooters, you don't have a true bona fide big man in the middle, and that matters. If Joe, not that he's from America, but if Joel Embiid was on this roster or somebody like that, that would be different. Because you'd have a big man presence to throw the ball to in the middle or whatever. But by having this roster assembled the way that you did, you basically said there's a style of play that they implement here, overseas, and we think that's the way to go. And it's not working for you right
when you think of all the best big men in the league, other than AD, who's like a 4-5, Embiid, not an American player.
Mm-hmm.
That's right.
Right, he wouldn't be playing for
Jokic,
Team USA.
Not
Jokic,
an American player.
Freak,
No,
not
American.
So is the sport becoming more global?
Yeah,
is that part of the issue? And it's not that we're putting out a bad product?
No, not a bad product. It just goes without saying the rest of the world has caught up. That's why now it requires us, if you want to be assured of a gold, even if they haven't played together a long time, Steph, Harden, Kawhi, LeBron, KD would never not win every game. They're just not capable of not winning every game. But once you get any lower than the greatest team ever, you can lose. Because, think about it like this. Let's say you took an all-star team.
Yeah.
And not all starters, 3 starters and 2 reserves on an all-star team. And they played a team that didn't make the playoffs. But it's the middle of the season, and these guys haven't played together on the all-star team even once.